This is N4LQ calling CQ, the old friends net. Anybody wishing to check in?
WA40.
Hello, Boone. Hope you're okay. Sound like something kicked off there.
Yeah, I trying to check in and handle an alarm over here at the same time, over.
Oh, okay. Yeah, sounding good.
I think I found the problem with the AM on this thing. It'll never be plate modulated, but it was a really irritating thing, over.
Yeah, well, you got rid of the muffled bassy sound, and you're got a lot of highs now. It sounds, it's cutting through much better.
Well, believe it or not, Yaesu Wisdom will not let you use compression in AM mode. Okay, no problem. But if you go through the manual, and I had to read it several times, still reads wrong. You can, there's something there that says compression is going to be kicked off on the AM. However, if you switch modes, it automatically turns off the compression setting and will not let you put it back in. Well, that's not a big deal, except when you turn off compression, it forces the parametric equalizer off. Nowhere in there does it say that. So, cure was real simple. It's got two sets of settings, one for the parametric equalizer and one for the regular equalizer. And I thought I'd done it before. I just went in and copied all the settings from one to the other, from the parametric, which is the sideband, down to the non-parametric, and that's the result. So it's another one of those, I don't know what you'd call it, almost nanny state things, over.
All right, so the parametric EQ was kicking off when you changed modes. It's a little bit hard to follow. Yaesu, I don't know. As long as they've been making rigs with all the same features on it, all the different models, you'd think they would have got it figured out by now. Yeah, anyway, let's see if anybody else wants to check in. This is N4LQ, listening for check-ins.
WB4 NKL.
There's a big signal from Limestone, Tennessee. Hello, Cliff. How are you doing?
Doing good, Steve. Thought I'd hang in here a little bit later tonight and check in with you. Been working on the control circuit for that gate. Got me a little metal panel, mounted some parts on it, and relays, and got that installed, but I haven't hooked it up yet. Got to do some wiring in the transmitter, so one step closer to getting the gates on the air. I did get some power out of it yesterday. It looks like about 250 into a dummy load, so maybe this week might get it on the air, Steve. Hello to Boone. It's WB4NKL.
Yeah, okay. That's good to hear. Hope to hear that thing this week. Anybody else want to check in? W4 JPL. Well, good evening, John. How are you tonight?
Oh, I'm still breathing. Another busy day. I went to church and did all that, and then worked on the house some more, and then went out and bought a Hickok 600A tooth tester, which so far doesn't seem to work. So I'm going to troubleshoot that. If it doesn't work, I'm not too fussed about it, because it's got a good meter in it, and I got a Hickok 600A with a not so good meter in it, so I'll probably just swap it over and sell the other one for parts. W4 GPL.
Okay, new Hickok tube tester. Maybe it's got a bad tube. Anyway, anybody else want to check in? Well, I'm on the Valiant tonight. Last night it was the Viking 1, tonight the Valiant. I don't know if you can tell any difference in the sound of it or not. Looks like 125 watts at about 105% modulation, 94 negative. That looks good. So hopefully it sounds okay, except for the big loud crash every time I squeeze the mic. I've been working on the Lee's LMAC power supply that he gave me to fix at Spartanburg, and it has a little bit of hum, and I'm going to put a filter choke on the input of that. I mean, all the thing has on the high voltage side is just one capacitor. That's the only filtering it's got. So I'm going to put a choke input on it, and I actually ordered a choke. Trying to find one that would fit, because there really isn't enough room inside this thing for another choke, and that's probably one reason they didn't include it. So I stripped out all the vibrator junk, and that's a huge part of the parts that just is not needed. And I redrew the schematic to eliminate all that junk. Got the 3-prong cord in, and a new off-on switch to get rid of that rotary switch, and just everything's getting replaced and moved and upgraded, and when I get done there'll be a lot less parts in it than there was to begin with, but it'll probably sound a little bit better. It's hard to get the hum out of them because of the lack of filtering. Anyhow, over to you there, Boone, WA4EVK with the improved audio in 4LQ.
4LQ in the creek, WA4EVK. Good evening, Cliff, John. Makes me glad I did a homebrew for that, semi-homebrew. I took someone had homebrewed a HB23 for a heat kit, and I took your advice or whatever and revamped the IB Plus in it, and I'm running on my AF68, I'm running about 385 or so volts, and that gives me about 20 watts out, which is perfect to dry mold foreign linear with. So things worked out pretty good there. Everybody's got a good signal tonight. I'm not going to be able to hang around more than another 20 minutes or so. XYL has got something going there for me. I tell you what, used to be busy. Hope the audio is better. I couldn't believe that Yasu didn't put that in the book, that if the compressor was off, you couldn't use the parametric. And then they turn around and turn the compressor off when you go to AM, and nowhere in there is label. Anyway, I caught him at it, caught up with it. Now it doesn't sound like I'm talking through the old tin can and a string like this. And with that, I believe we'll see. I'm going to send it back to Cliff. We hadn't talked about the order yet, but WB4NKL, WA4EVK.
Okay, Boone, WA4EVK, WB4NKL. Audio's good and clean, but I'm not, of course, I don't have anything to look at percentage, but it sounds a little low compared to your carrier on me. I know I have to crank the volume up a little bit compared to John and Steve's signal. So I don't know if Steve's looking at it on a SDR, but sounds like just the level. The audio's good and clean, but it sounds like it could use a little more level. Yeah, it's all those changes, Steve. You might have been as well off the home-built power supply. I've built 3 or 4 of them, and I've always upped the filtering compared to what they had in there originally. I think I added I had Terry's built in a pretty small chassis, one of those Bud converter cabinets. It's pretty small. I think I had to hang a filter choke out the back of it and mount it on the back of the chassis. But and then I think when I built for Chuck, I don't remember it. It was a bigger cabinet. Didn't have any problems getting chokes and everything in there. But yeah, that was pretty good getting that all that stuff in that little LMAC supply. Make it mobile or 110 either one. So they were really pushing the case size, I guess, to get it all put in there. I'm anxious to hear Brandon's when he gets it going. He's going to use it as a mobile supply. I don't know. He might have to work on a vibrator. Those things usually don't work after they've sat for years, but I guess he can probably go in and clean the contacts up and get it going. But it's going to be interesting to hear an actual mobile LMAC. Go ahead, John. W4 JPL, WB4 NKL.
Alrighty, WB4 NKL in the group, W4 JPL. Well, I am having a really rough time here in Boone tonight. Carriers there, I just don't hear any audio. It's really, I catch bits and pieces of it. So, unfortunately, maybe it's conditions tonight. I don't know. So, not a lot going on here. Like I said, I just picked up that tube tester, took a look at it, and the only thing I had in here was a 6146, a couple of them, so I tried to test them, and there's no filament voltage, so I'll fool with it later on. I got other things to worry about right now. So that's what's happening here at the Looney Bin. Over to you, Steve, W4 JPL.
Okay, W4 JPL, N4LQ. Is there anybody else that would entertain the idea of checking in? Well, I didn't hear anything. So, Boone, I think, yeah, it'd be a good idea to turn your gain up some, because you were down the 50% range, I would say, just kind of guesstimating it. If you do that, it wouldn't hurt to have just a little bit more lows. I hate to even say anything, but I think once you get your mic gain up there, you'll probably be okay. And Cliff, fine on the home brew. Yeah, I would consider doing that. Their transformer is way bigger than it needs to be because of the vibrator junk on it, and yeah, it's hard to imagine that much power going through the vibrator to a little thing the size of a 5 or 6V6 tube, or putting out or supplying enough pulsations to run a 6146 transmitter. Seems like maybe it's pushing it a little bit. And it looks like before that they had dynamotors, and I had never seen a reference to an LMAC dynamotor, but apparently they sold one for a short time. Well, I got that new book in the mail. It's called 40 Years of Mobile Leering by W6AAQ Don Johnson, and he was Mr. Mobile from, well, I guess from back in the 50s through the 90s or something like that, and he deals with all aspects of it, and there's a lot of ads from LMAC that are included in his book here that are kind of neat. AF67 for $177. Well, anyway, those filter chokes are not cheap. New ones are terribly expensive, and finding one that'll fit is not easy. I found one that's a toroidal filter choke, and well, it was about $50, and I'm not sure, they didn't publish the voltage rating on it. And then I found another one that is it says it works for amplifiers using EL34s and 300 whatever they are, 300Bs and that kind of audio amplifiers. It says it'll handle 250 milliamps, which is plenty of current, but they failed to mention the inductance. So I don't know what it's going to end up being, but I went ahead and ordered it. And I thought, maybe when it gets here, I'll go ahead and measure it. And then my meter doesn't quite go that high. I got this thing a few years ago, this meter, and it only goes up to 2 millihenries. I mean, 2 Henrys, excuse me, 2 Henrys. So I think I'll look around. There's a lot of cheap ones on the internet. It doesn't have to be real accurate, just as long as it will read up to about 20 Henrys, I'm fine. I like the idea of the one Charlie mentioned, but I'm not going to fool with the scope and the generators and the mathematics and all that. It's probably prone to some kind of error. So anyway, if I had that vintage Heathkit, that'd be kind of cool to find. I'll have to look around, see what's out there. So, but yeah, they're just not cheap. And I've got some chokes here, but they won't fit. And I didn't want one sticking out the back. I thought about that, but I put one in another LMAC, and I had to kind of modify the cabinet and just do some bending on it. So go ahead, Boone. Let's see what you sound like. WB4EVK, N4LQ.
Here's Mir. N4LQ in the group, WA4EVK. See, how does it sound now, Steve?
I can't really detect much change there, Boone.
I ran the mic cleaned up pretty good. I can't affect the modulation percentage. I haven't found anything in that huge menu to do that. It may be stuck like this till I get my hands on an AF67, so we'll see. I'm going to send it back to you, and or let you pass it to Cliff if you want, or go ahead and take Mir in. N4LQ, WA4K.
Okay, well, it goes to Cliff next, and then John, and then Mir. Good evening to you. I've got a 67 here. I've got a spare if you want it. It's ugly. I mean, it's kind of rusty looking, but it does work, and I've had it on the air, so you're welcome to take it and play with it next time we get together. Go ahead, Cliff. WB4NKL, N4LQ.
Okay, Steve. It's WB4NKL. I couldn't tell any difference in the audio, Boone. It's still, you got a good carrier, but modulation's quite a bit down from where it should be, I think. And then John, he was having the same trouble I was having to crank the volume up and still not getting you 100%. Hello to Mir, sounding good. There's a company out there I've ordered some transformers from before, Steve, Antec, and they've got pretty good deals on toroid power transformers. I used that to build a couple LMAC supplies. And I don't know, they probably got chokes, I don't know. You might look at them, just look at Antec, A-N-T-E-K transformer company. They're in the States here somewhere, and quite reasonable on the power transformers. As far as measuring, I've got a Syncor LC53, and it goes up to 10 Henrys, but it don't, I've had chokes, it's higher than that. It just sits there and flashes if it goes above 10 Henrys. So I have to resort to some other method if it's above that. And a choke, those big chokes are current dependent on how much current you're pulling through them, also determines the inductance of it. So, you know, it changes depending on the current pull. And that's they used to make swinging chokes that had a gap in them that they used that on purpose, you know, where the inductance would get lower as the current went up. They put a air gap in them to enhance that on the choke. Good deal on the tube tester, John. I've got a Hickok over here that it's a real nice, it's one of the older Hickoks, a 510X, I believe it is. Thing is in perfect shape except the meter's bad. So I've got plenty of tube testers. I hadn't tried to change it to work a different meter end or anything. And this thing's has got a lighted meter, so I'd kind of like to find a junker with a good meter in it to replace it, since it's a lighted meter in the tube tester. And it's one of those things to look out for in Hamfest. Go ahead, John. W4 JPL. It's WB4NKL.
WB4NKL on the group W4JPL. Okay, fine business. I heard Boone a little better that time. I could make out most of what he was saying. Yeah, well, the tube tester was not that much money for what tube testers go these days. And I might be able to get it working yet. I just tried it and there didn't seem to be any, there was a funny smell too. I pulled it out and looked underneath. I didn't see anything roasting or burning, but I wasn't getting any filament voltage to the tube. So, and I jiggled the tube in and out a few times and, did all that. So, it'll work or it won't. Like I said, if it don't work, I've got another one. I lent to a friend who decided the meter wasn't right and he started fooling with it, and that was the end of that. So, yeah. Other than that, not a lot going on. Like I said, just doing a few projects around the house. Steve, incidentally, eventually I'll get an AF67 or AF68. Excuse me. I've got a Howard Crafters PS120-150 that I use with my Johnson Mobile transmitter and the PMR8 I have, and I figured out how to get that to work with a LMAC transmitter, so that's on the list down the road. I got too many projects right now to worry about that. Too much junk, not enough time. Hello, Mir. I hope you're doing all right today. WF2U, W4JPL.
Yeah, good evening, John, and everybody else here. This is WF2U. Well, good evening. I came in a little bit late, so I caught the net in the middle of you all chatting. So it took me a minute to set the antenna tuner for this frequency because I was on 80 meters with it on the old transmitter this afternoon. And actually 180 was with the other antenna. And anyway, everybody's strong. There was just a little bit of static, not much. It's a little bit, but it's not completely quiet. Anyway, so I assume, hope everybody's okay. Survived the weekend. And with that, I think it goes to, who does it go to? Does it go to you, Steve? N4LQ, WF2U.
Okay, yeah. Anybody else out there that would like to check in, call now. All right. Didn't hear anybody. This is N4LQ. And the old friends 160 meter net. Anybody running AM is welcome to check in with us. Let's see, Antec, I looked at that That's the only one I could find, a toroidal choke. And Cliff, I sent you an email with a link to the one I was looking at. And like I said, it gives you the current rating and the inductance. It doesn't say what the voltage rating is. And I'm not really sure what the voltage rating actually means. And I don't know if that's like from end to end across it, or is that from either end to ground, or what? Or maybe just I can see it being like if there's a 50 volt drop across it, then anything higher than that, due to the extra current, it might short out or something. So if you know anything, I've seen that question posed a few times, and it's been answered. One guy said it was end to end, and the other guy said no, it's from the core to the chassis. So I don't know. So I guess I'm not too worried about that. And I may just go ahead and order one of those. That it looks like, if nothing else, you could stand it up vertically and mount it with an L bracket, and there'd be plenty of room in there for it. And that's 10 Henrys. That's quite a bit of inductance in that small of an area. So take a look at that if you would, and let me know what you think. And John, thanks for the tip on the Hallicrafters. And I think Mirror, somebody mentioned that a long time ago, using Hallicrafters on an LMAC, or somebody brought it up. Sounded like a good idea. And Boone, I don't know, can't you just go to the mic gain and turn the mic gain up? That's I would have thought that's all you had to do. I don't know what else would be in the menu that would be so unique to AM. Anyway, over to you, Boone, WA4EVK, N4LQ.
N4LQ, WA4EVK. Well, that's what I did, Steve. I can't tell it's really doing much. Hey, who knows? Now, I've got a Chinese LC wrench here that I bought a year or so ago, and it's got a Henry number I just don't even believe. It says it'll go to 100 Henrys. I doubt that. I measured 8 and 10 with it. It seemed to be fairly accurate. But I was going to tell you, I'm going to be at my brother's in Columbus there at least one day this week. I'll call you on the phone tomorrow or whatever and talk about maybe bringing this thing by so you can take a look at it, or I can look at that AS67 while I'm at it. But I'm going to have to sign. It's that magic witching hour time that my XYL wanted to think we're going over the neighbors or something. Who knows at this point? I'm forgotten. Anyway, with that, I'm going to say 73s and send it up to Cliff. WB4NKL and taking WA4EVK.
Yeah, WA4EVK, WB4NKL. Good copy that time, Moon, but he still was a little low, but you were above the noise that go around. Steve, that rating on a choke is usually how much voltage you can put on it before it breaks over to the frame. Insulation and the chokes are really what that's saying. So what type of insulating materials are used in it is what determines that. Or you can, if you're concerned about it, you can float the choke some way, and that way it don't come into play. If you can, float it DC wise. I've had chokes go bad, and modulation transformers, and I've done that, floated them, and where they were shorting to the case. Only problem is you don't want anybody around it that don't know what's going on. They reach in there and touch the choke. It's hot then if you float it. So that's probably not a good idea either. on those power supplies, I've took a Swan power supply and made use it on my Morrow twins, and they're pretty good supply to modify. They've got a negative bias supply in them if you need that, and the high voltage, it's about 800 volts, but it's stacked up on top of the low voltage winding, so you can change one wire and drop the 800 volts down to about 500 volts by taking it off the top of that low voltage. So that's what I did to this when I modified it to where the high voltage is about 500, 550. And it seems like I think this Swan supply I picked up at a Hamfest for about $10. So always look out for those. Most of them got a little too much voltage, the way they are. So it's good to hunt the ones that's a little lower voltage. And I believe the Hallicrafters, like John's got, are a little lower than the Heath kits. So go ahead, John. W4JPL, WB4NKL.
Okay, WB4NKL and the group W4JPL. Well, the Hallicrafters was a found accident that I could use it. I picked up the Johnson mobile transmitter and I really wanted to make it go. And I happened to buy those twins at Shelby a couple years ago, and I started looking at the power supply on that, and I was like, I can make this work. So first I made it work for the Johnson mobile transmitter, and then I adapted it to use the multi-LMAC receiver. I had to put a big resistor in there and an OB3, I think it was, tube in there in this little interface box I made. It works fine. It works good, so I can also adapt that to work with Heath kit HG10 VFO I've got here, but I've got no interest in doing that right now, and I can make it work with a LMAC transmitter, so it's all good. That's what makes it fun. We can figure something out and make it work. Over to you, Amir. WF2U, W4JPL.
Yeah, okay, W4JPL. WFDU. Yeah, okay. And everybody sounds good. John is a little bit weaker than Cliff. If you are moving in here, and Boone was a little bit weak before. I'm using the JRC transceiver again. I did some. I spent another hour in the shack here because I want to troubleshoot the DX100B. That the high voltage didn't come on. And I found the problem, which is actually not a problem, and I know why it happened. Jim, K4DE, used to own the DX100B, and he's made some modifications in it. Among the modifications is that he put a fuse inside on the chassis, a fuse holder with a half-amp slow blow on the high voltage transformer center. And I know when I lost the high voltage, it was when was that? 7 months ago. It's been almost like in the beginning of the summer, if I recall, when I lost my Long Carolina Wyndham when it broke, and I was tuning up the DX100 one morning, and obviously without the antenna being very effective, I think it was just half of the antenna. And I saw that the high voltage is, the plate current is really going high. And I looked again at the meter, at the SWR meter, and tweaked something again, and in the meantime I lost the high voltage, and just now I realized because the outside fuse on the outside of the chassis on the in the back of the transmitter, it was okay. That's the normal one that is original. So today I yanked out the transmitter from the case, and I see that thing right next to the transformer, and I opened it up and took an ohm meter, and it's open. So I just have to dig in my fuse stash and pick up the correct fuse and put it in, and I'm sure that the high voltage will come back and I'll be able to use it. Didn't even have to take it off the shelf. It just slid out the chassis. So that's the big story of the day. And so back to you there, Steve. And I guess you saw the video that I made from last night when I used the JRC transceiver the first time. It's a pretty long video that I made. N4LQ, WF2U.
And WF2U, N4LQ. Yeah, I did, and appreciate that. That receiver sounds a little hissy or a little noisy. I think you hit the noise reduction button there one time, and it really sounded better there for a minute. But I don't know. Bar graph, not. It looks like it's not all there. You know? Half AM or something. But anyway, you're having fun with it, I guess. Anybody else want to check into the net? Well, anyway, yeah, that'd be good. Just put a bigger fuse in that thing. Get that DX100 on here, man. That'll sound really nice and make us all happy. But I'm getting a little line noise here lately. I don't know where that comes from. It just shows up. It takes spells. It seems like in wet weather it shows up. Our power lines are all underground around here, so I can't imagine where it's coming from, unless it travels for a long distance. Anyway, I suppose, Mary, you won't be out there hurting or anything Tuesday because of the rain. It's sounds like it's a done deal. We're getting at least three inches and maybe 3.5 or so on Tuesday, or Monday night and Tuesday. So we'll see how the band sounds. And on the choke, the toroid choke, Cliff, that option is a plastic cover, and it looks like it. The one I sent you on eBay includes the plastic cover. It looks like it's pretty well protected. So it looks to me like it floats anyway, unless those are metal flanges on the bottom. I couldn't tell. It's hard to tell much about it. And you go through their data sheet and look at it, it doesn't really have a lot to say. So it's kind of an expensive little toy to play with, but I think I'm going to go ahead and see if I can get one here. And I'm trying to get standardized, on one choke that works on all the LMAX, so they all sound good. So back to you, Boone, WA4 or EVK, and yep, we'll meet up one of these days soon on that meter. Don't worry about it. I mean, I saw one on eBay from China that measures 20 Henrys, and it was $18. So it doesn't cost much, and besides that, these things will come in, and I'll just take their word for whatever it is. 10 Henrys is plenty. And I don't know how these LCR meters measure inductance. I'm not even sure what frequency they use, 1 megahertz or what. Anyway, over to you, WA4EBK and 4LQ.
I think he said he was going to do something with the wife. It's WB4NKL. My goodness, another train. Steve, I haven't looked at that yet. That email address that you've got, it goes to my computer that's in the house. I don't have it up on the computer out here. If you want to send stuff out here to me out here, send it to WB4NKL2, the number 2, at gmail.com, and that's what's on the computer here in the shop. And I can look at it. Well, it's not right in front of me, but it's across the room here. And let's see. Yeah, Mayor, it'd be good when you get that DX100 going. That's what I was running before I got this Globe King fired up, and I think it was doing a pretty good job. So we have to get everybody on a boat anchor. I think they do sound a little better, it seems like. We'll have to get around the AF-67s. That'd be a good deal if you can get that one to Boone, Steve. And I'll have to see what else I can round up here on 160. I'm going to try that Gates here before too long. Go ahead, John, W4JPL, WB4NKL. You getting much rain or snow or anything over your way?
WB4NKL from the group W4JPL. We're supposed to get some nonsense on Tuesday. We did get a couple inches of rain. I guess it was Saturday. And I didn't get much done outside, that's for sure. It rained and when it rained some more, and then after that it rained a bit more after that. Or was it Friday or Saturday it rained? I'm just looking here at the daily forecast. They keep messing with these things. Here it is daily. So I recall Tuesday before it said 2 to 3 inches of rain. No, now it's 1 to 2 inches. Before it was 2 to 3 inches of rain. High is 61. Now it's 1 to 2 inches, but still, rain is rain. It's rainy. So, no, that's all. Now, that Gates transmitter you have there, I guess you could tell me in the next go-around, Cliff, I guess it's one of those great big beam-offs that's 6 foot high and 19 foot wide and weighs about 15,000 pounds. Something like that. Over to you, Amir, WF2U, W4JPL.
Yeah, W4GPL, WF2JPL. JPL, this is WF2U. Yeah, okay. Still coming in pretty nicely, John. And then I have to put the Valiant also in here. I didn't have the time and the drive to change the setup here a little bit and start shuffling equipment off and on the shelves. So I could put them in some storage. The Valiant would do very nicely, probably here also. And so we'll see. At least I'll get the DX100 going. Steve, I noticed that this JRC transceiver does not sound as good as the ICOM. The speaker does not. The speaker sounds tinny and a little bit scratchy. But I know why, because it's smaller than the one in the ICOM radio. And the front panel that is behind, or it's mounted actually, on the front panel behind it, on both of them, the JRC front panel is flimsier than the ICOM. The ICOM is like a tank. Like a tank. And really, everything is much thicker and much sturdier. So I think the speaker is doing much better there. I am not sure whether it's the audio amplifier also that is better, because what I did, I have several bookshelf speakers, and today I used the JRC transceiver with the external speaker, and it sounds much better. And on the ICOM, I don't even bother putting an external speaker. It sounds so good. So that's the way it is. And actually, I noticed that the noise banker, or what they call noise reduction system, it has 3 settings, and even the mildest setting, it's the lower setting, it sounds a little bit even more distorted than normal. It distorts the audio, which is sort of normal, but it doesn't sound as good as without it. Now, I also, so I'm going to leave it, as long as I'm using this radio, I'm going to leave the bookshelf speaker hooked up to it, and it's a much easier listen. So that's the story with this. Tomorrow I'm going to get another one, and that's the end of my collection, because it's it's going to be the 4 major marine radios. Tomorrow I'm getting a Kenwood made marine radio. It's the model number is Kenwood TKM707. So basically it's the same kind of deal. It has a pre-programmed marine bands with a channel, and in that one I have to actually, it has a dip switch that I have to change the settings of the dip switch for a different service, enable the lower side band and open up the transmitter, and that's how that is done in that one. So with that, it goes back to N4 LQ. This is WSU.
All right. WF2U N4LQ. If I ever need a marine transceiver, I know where to come and look for one. You're getting another one, a Kenwood. So you got an ICOM, a JRC, and a Kenwood. And who knows what else. I saw a big, I think it's a JRC receiver listed on eBay a while ago. I think it's a 10, was it NRD or something 10? Man, that thing was huge. And it was expensive too. Anyway, so let's see here. What is, I got plenty to keep me busy here, and I can have this toroid transformer here next week. The one from China, it says the U.S., it's shipping from the U.S., but as soon as I ordered it, I got an email back saying that orders from the U.S. may take 10 to 14 days, and from China 14 to 28 days or something. And I don't know about that. I'm not sure I'll get it I'm not even sure if I'll get it in 10 days. It says it's coming from California, but it's from Knob Sound. It's NOBSOUND, one word. That company has got all kinds of really cool little amplifiers, little tube type audio stereo gadgets, and they were really neat looking. Take a look sometime. Just go to Knob Sound and search some of their stuff. Anyhow, let's see what else. I guess I got my ditch dug for the rain Tuesday. Hopefully that'll work. And somebody came down the road here yesterday with some kind of a trimming machine or a tractor or something and just chewed the trees up all down both sides of the road. I guess they're trying to keep them back away from the road, but they sure made a mess and just kind of gnarled them off, you know, real ugly looking cuts. I'm not sure what spurred that, but I don't think it was necessary. Anyhow, back to you, Cliff. WB4NKL, N4LQ.
N4LQ, it's WB4NKL. Here's somebody else tuning up, sounds like. I looked at that, Steve. I think you'll be happy with that. That's an Antec. I didn't know they sold on eBay, or they maybe didn't used to. I used to just go to their site and order stuff, but it looks like it's the same price. And yeah, I'd say that case is plastic. I never have got one in the case. Usually just get them the Bayer transformer, Bayer choke. I hadn't ordered any chokes from them either. But that bolt that you see coming out the top of it, that goes on through and bolts it to whatever you're going to bolt it to. That's how you mount it. I think that bottom piece of I believe that's plastic, the case. And I don't know what those little ears probably don't do anything as far as mounting it. Probably just holds the plastic down. But yeah, I would say that's good for quite a bit of voltage, because it has to arc over through the windings to that metal plate to the bolt that goes down the center. So I don't think there'll be any problem there. Good deal on the chainsaw. I've got a little electric chainsaw I use from time to time, but I run it off my little Honda generator. I've got a 2,000 watt Honda generator, and it works the saw just fine, so I don't have to get out the extension cords. So, and the Honda generator is a lot easier to keep running than it is a chainsaw, seems like. I always have trouble getting the chainsaw started, seems like. John, I sent you some pictures of the big gates. It's a pretty good sized transmitter. It's 800 pounder, and it's got room. You can actually get inside of it. In the ads for gates, that's the way they advertised it. You could get inside of it and work. They got a picture in one of their catalogs of a guy inside working on it, and it's got 8 meters. Everything's metered. 7 meters on the front and 1 meter inside. So I got it put back together and converted over. I took a Collins PTO and fed into it, and I'm getting about 250 watts out on 160, and that's the rating of the transmitter. I decreased the loading and got about 350 watts out, but it was pulling quite a bit more current, and I don't know if the modulator is good for that much or not, so we'll see how that goes. I might be able to up the power a little bit if the modulator will take care of it. And I guess that's about all. John, I sent you some pictures. W4JPL, WB4NKL.
K4QE.
There's Uncle Tony. W4JPL here. Yeah, I saw the pictures, Cliff. Thank you very much. That's cool. It's big, but you got the space to put it, I guess. I'm curious how you moved 800 pounds. I guess you had to take it all apart and do a little bit at a time. That's a whole bunch of weight. I was groaning and moaning about this 125 pound transmitter or power supply for the 500. So I can't imagine 800 pounds. I've moved that kind of weight before with the machines, more than that actually. But they're big machines, and I was using a Johnson bar to shift them around and stuff like that when I was younger and a lot more full of juice. Over to you, Mira, and I guess you can turn it to K4QE, WF2U, W4JPL.
Yeah, Roger, John. W4JPL, Family Group, WF2U. Yeah, very good. Yeah, lifting up big transmitters. Yeah, I know the feeling. I know the feeling, and I know loading them on trucks and unloading it here. Luckily, I have a front loader, so that's how I take it off the truck. And then immediately it goes on a furniture dolly, heavy-duty furniture dolly, and big casters, and ready to push. Yeah, but good job, Cliff. Eager to hear that transmitted. Welcome, Tony, to the party again. So let's turn it over to you, and then you turn it over to Steve. N4QE, this is WFU.
Okay, Mir, thank you very much, and good evening to everyone. I don't know who all's in here because I just got here, so I apologize, but I'm not even sure what the topic of discussion is. So I'm not sure who it goes to next. I guess Steve, N4LQ, K4QE.
W4KR, Steve.
Understand, W4KR. Well, okay, Tony. Very good. Glad to have you tonight. And Stan, W4KR, in Waller Holler. I'm going to turn it over to you and let you say your piece and then turn it back to me, and we'll go back around, see what's left. And before that, I'd like to make one comment about electric chainsaws. But I'll save that. Go ahead, Stan. W4KR, N4LQ.
Yeah, okay, Steve. Good evening. N4LQ. And everybody, W4KR, Walhalla. Outside of Walhalla. Copying everybody fine. Boy, Cliff, you're really rocking. You're really rocking down here tonight. Got a real good signal. I tried to call in after your transmission, Steve, before, but helps. Cliff, that was my carrier you heard come on. Helps if you turn the gain up. Anyway, good evening, everybody. Yeah, as I said, copying everybody real well. I have an electric, a small electric, a battery-powered chainsaw, just a 12-incher for little stuff, and that's okay. But otherwise, I want the Still Ranch hand, gasoline and all. Back to you, Steve. N4LQ and a gang, W4KR.
W4KR, N4LQ. Well, back in 2008, we had a hurricane come through up in Kentucky where we lived. Hurricane Ike. It came all the way up from the Gulf of Mexico, and on a perfectly clear, cloud-free day, we had a constant 70-mile-an-hour wind, and it was the remnants of Hurricane Ike. It was really a strange day, but it just kept blowing constantly, and we lost a huge tree in the backyard. It was about, it was probably 2 feet, between maybe 30 inches in diameter, big oak tree. And I had to get it sawed up pretty quick because I had to go back to, I was getting some treatment up in Bloomington, Indiana. Anyway, I borrowed my son's father-in-law's, I think it was a Craftsman, a Sears electric chainsaw. I had a big steel. That thing died on me, but it was a Haas. I mean, it had this huge engine on it. But even then, it would, you get jammed like a typical gas saw does, and they don't have any torque at all when they're starting up from dead start. You got to rev those things up and get them spinning, and then you hit the wood with them. But if they're jammed, you can just sit there all day and give it gas. They don't do anything. So anyway, I got this electric one from him and hooked it up, and I could not believe it. But it would not jam up, no matter, the tree could close up on it, and it'd just keep going right through the gap. And just unlimited torque instantaneously as soon as you turn it on. Of course, it's I'm trying to remember, it used over 1,000 watts of power. I mean, you had to have a full-size extension cord, and I still use a big cord with it. I still got it. Anyway, I loved it. And, all the cords in the world are not as much trouble as fooling with a gas saw, because it just don't seem like they last very long if they sit around any time at all. The gas gets gummed up in them, or they won't start, or whatever. Well, last year I think it was, I said, I think I'd like to have a battery one because they keep advertising them. So I went to Lowe's and I got the biggest beastly battery-powered saw they had. Took it back here to saw up a big tree, and it wouldn't do anything. It would get down in there a little bit, and it would just lock up, and it didn't have any torque. It was worse than any saw I ever saw, and it was their big one. I highly recommend it, too. Everybody recommended it. So I have totally written off of it. I guess they'd be fine for small limbs, like Stan's talking about, but not for a big job. So I got my electric saw out and finished it off, and it's never, ever failed me. And I don't get all covered with gas fumes, and, same thing goes for the weed eater. I've got an electric weed eater. Now, it's battery-powered. Anyway, that is about all I've got to say about that, and I guess it goes over to Cliff. And thanks for the comments on that choke, and I've got one on order. Should be here next week. WB4NKL, N4LQ.
Now, N4LQ, WB4NKL. Okay, Steve. I think you'll be happy with Antec. The transformers, they sell one that's 100 watt, they say. That's the size core. And you can do anything you want to that transformer. I don't think you're going to burn it up. It's well overrated. They're not pushing their current limits or anything on it. And ordered one from them one time, and they sent the wrong one. Seemed like I wanted the 200 watt version, and they sent the 100 watt version. So I called them, and they said, just keep the old one, we'll send you the 200 watt. So I gained the transformer that go around. And so it's a pretty good company to deal with. Hello, Tony, and hello, Stan. Both sounding good here. Stan, I'm running the old Globe King. Had it fired up. Getting close on getting the gates going. Maybe it won't be too much longer. John, as far as unloading or moving the gates, I can just say one word, Billy. Billy, K-O-4-S-S-Y. He took his trailer and picked it up down in Etowah, Tennessee, and brought it up here. And transformers were out of it, but he wouldn't let me mess with it. He said, I'll get it. And he had a big furniture type mover, and he just unloaded it. Of course, like I say, transformers were out of it, but it probably still weighs 600 pounds. That little guy, he's a little short feller, but I wouldn't want to tangle with him. Of course, he's got a few. He's quite a bit younger than we are, but he's tough. Go ahead, John, W4JPL, WB4NKL.
Okay, WB4NKL, W4JPL. Yeah, Billy. I can see that, because he fools around with a lot of that stuff. So I used to be able to lift a lot more than I can now, but for whatever reason, I just can't do it no more. And hello to Stan. Good copy here. I'm going to jump out of here, boys. It's pumpkin time for me. So I'll be listening for a couple minutes, but Having said that, I've had all the fun I can stand today. It's been a busy day, as Tony can attest to. 73, God bless. I'll talk to you fellers probably in the morning if you're in there. WF2U, W4JPL, 73.
Yeah, Roger, John. W4JPL, down the group, WF2U. Well, good evening and good night. Take care. Tomorrow there is no official. I mean, if you are on any other 80-meter net or something, but the Old Friends net is actually Tuesday in the morning. So take care, John, and it was good to hear you. And Tony, your signal is pretty good, and Stan, you are strong here, and I'm still using the same JRC transceiver that I used on the Old Friends net with AM equivalent, as they call it, upper sideband with full carrier. And what else? Oh yeah, so I just have to get the proper fuse, and my DX100B is going to be on the air again. That's one thing that I'm going to do, and then I have some stuff to do outside tomorrow morning before the rain comes, and then Tuesday is not my herding day, it's Wednesday, so I can do some indoor things, and preferably, although they are expecting some thunderstorms too. If there are no thunderstorms, I'll do a little work here and probably put the DX100 back in the cabinet with a new fuse and let it rip. So that's the story. So it goes to right, driving. Tony. WFQE. This is WFQE.
Okay, Mir. I'm having a little trouble copying you. There's a bit of QS Baker on the band, but so I didn't quite catch all you were saying. But hello to Stan, W4KR. Good to hear you on here tonight. I think this is the first time we've spoken. My name is Tony, and I'm located in Liberty, North Carolina, not far from John, W4JPL. And I'm running about 200 watts of carrier here, and all solid state here, although that might change in the near future. Steve, like we were talking about last night, I'm going to move forward with getting my one of my DX100s on the air, and made it up with an R390 that I got from Brian. So I need to get some stuff together here to do that. It probably won't be for at least a week or so before I can do it, but I'm certainly going to give it a try. Not a whole heck of a lot going on here. I've been messing around with some mainframe simulation software and having some fun with that stuff I've never worked with before. And I know it's old stuff, but for me, it's I don't know. The same way you guys like to work on old transmitters and receivers, I feel the same way about old operating systems and computers. So I guess everyone has their thing, right? But that's what we're looking at here. But John and I went to Lexington today to go get a tube tester from a guy who had one for sale, and when we were talking about the whole, me getting my boat anchors on the air. So he encouraged me to do so, and I think that's how we're going to proceed. So that's about it from here. And John, good night to you, and I'm sure we'll be talking to you probably later, probably tomorrow. And I'll pass it over to Stan, W4KR. This is K4QE.
Okay, Tony, N4QE, W4KR. Hey, glad to meet you, Tony. Yeah, you're double checking here. Yeah, you're doing good down here. I'm in the far northwest corner of South Carolina, about 12 miles northeast of Clemson, northwest of Walhalla, actually. Next town up, about halfway between Walhalla and Mountain Rest. The next town up is north of there is Highlands, North Carolina. We're about 25 miles from Highlands and about 25 miles east of the Georgia state line, and Clayton just over the other side of the line, Clayton, Georgia. Running a Valiant tonight. Antenna's a dipole, about 100 feet up, and I think the ends are about 80 foot to 100 feet at the center, and the receiver's an NC303. Steve, gas chainsaws are an absolute pain in the neck. They're temperamental to say the least. I've got one that's about, it's an old still that's about 29 cc. It's about 40 years old. Had it since we lived up in Michigan, and it works occasionally, but you sure get tired of cranking on the darn thing. Cliff, I think the plate transformer in the gates is good for about 700 mils. So, and of course that runs, runs both the modulator and the PA. So, I guess it depends how you want to sort it out. I had a BC1G here at one time, and it came with two plate transformers. And I've kept I sold the gates and kept the other transformer. So it's here if the one in the 20V3 goes wacky, why I can stuff that in there. They're a lot lighter than the transformers, the free transformers that are in the columns. It was nice here today, beautiful outside today, but temperature got up to about 54. Let's see, what else? Yeah, for now that's I know what else I was going to say. Mir, you were a lot of QSB on your signal. I'm not hearing that on Steve or Tony or Cliff, but our distance is a little bit QSB prone. And 4LQ W4KR.
Okay, W4KR, N4LQ. Well, I think maybe Mir's QSB was audio related. I had the impression maybe he was looking away from the microphone, and that must be one of those mics you have to be real close to or something, because I was watching his carrier and it stayed steady, and the audio just dropped down to nothing there several times as he faded off into the sunset. Anyway, I'll be glad when you get that DX100 and a big D104 on there, and Tony, you too. Man, I tell you, I'm going to have to get me one of those. You know, I have owned two of them, and that happened at a Hamfest one time. It's been quite a few years ago. And let's see, that was Gaffney, South Carolina. And some guy was parked next to me trying to sell a couple of them and a bunch of other stuff. And it was getting near quitting time. And he said, he looked over at me and said, "You want these things? I'll sell them to you for $100." And I just had no use whatsoever for a DX100. And I said, "Nah, I don't think so. I don't really have any place to put them. I'm just not too interested in that." And about 10 minutes went by, and he said, "Look, if you'll take them, I'll give them to you." I said, "Oh, okay." Throw them in my truck. So I brought them home and kind of looked them over, and I didn't even bother to check them out. And I think I may have put them on QTH, and some guy came by and picked them up. And he was on his way from St. Louis through Charlotte to Florida, I believe. And somehow he managed to put both of them in the trunk of his Buick and headed south. And, well, I made a few bucks on it anyway. And now I'm thinking, I think maybe I need to have one of those. So I don't know. They're a fine piece of equipment, really. And if you can find one that isn't all rusted up, I know the chassis do tend to get rusty sometimes. And, yeah, Stan, I totally agree with you on gas chainsaws. And if you're in the business of trees, then of course you got to have one for portability. And those guys that climb trees, they'll pull them up with a rope and swing them around. So you really do need a gas chainsaw. It's very appropriate if that's what you're doing for a living. But if for a homeowner to own one and they just sit around and don't get used, they just get to be where they just won't start and too much trouble. So that's why I like and that's just one reason why I like the electric one, and the other one is that startup torque. That really makes a difference. And oh, by the way, who was it? Somebody mentioned using it with a Honda generator. I tried that because we were without power for some time, and I had 2,000 watt Honda, those little quiet generators, and I couldn't get it to run that saw at all. It wouldn't start. And I suppose after it got, spinning, it would be okay, but that initial surge was just too much for that little thing. Anyway, over to you. Let's see. Goes to Cliff, I guess. WB4NKL, N4LQ.
N4LQ, WB4NKL. Okay, Steve. Well, my chainsaw might not be as big as yours. I think the electric one I got is more of a trimming saw, but the little Honda generator runs it fine. But it's probably not as big a motor as what you've got. I bought one of those gas Poland chainsaws one time. It was the one that's got the extension where you can the actual blade was about 10 foot up a pole. Pole saw is what I'm trying to say. And I used it a couple times, and I set it up. I think the next season I got it out, and I never could get the thing started again. I got aggravated with it. I think I give it to somebody to come by here, and I used it exactly maybe twice, and it's the last time I ever heard it run. But they can be aggravating. Now, I mean, when you pull on those things for about 30 minutes and you still don't get any motor running, you're done with, or I am. But I've got a steel that I've had for years, and it's hard to start, but it'll usually start, after I fool around with it for a few minutes. So I keep it on hand. Daughter bought me a little, it's strictly a trimming saw. I hadn't tried it out. She bought me one for Christmas, a little steel battery operated one that it's just got a little short blade, maybe 6-inch bar on it. So it's for limbs. I think it said 4 inches and under. But I hadn't tried that out yet. But I don't know. I'm like you. I don't care too much for a gas. I guess the problem is we don't use them enough, and they just the fuel goes bad, and they're just hard to keep going. I guess I'll get out about 9:20 here. It looks like, and enjoy it tonight. I'll listen for a round, but I guess I'll make this my 73 round for me. John got out. I guess it goes to Tony. No, it goes to Mir. WF2U. It's WB4NKL 73s.
Yeah, very good. Cliff, 73, have a good night. You had a very good signal tonight, and we'll talk to you soon. And it's my time to get out of here also. I have to let the dogs out. And before the XYL tries to go to sleep, and then they wake her up. Or just about falling asleep, and they are noisy. So they have like 15 minutes to stay out, and then they also go to bed. Anyway, regarding the chainsaws, just last year I bought a Ryobi chainsaw with a 10-inch bar, and I do all the trimming with it, and I can even cut down like smaller trees and chop them up. When the trunk is like over a foot long, no, even more, because I managed to cut it. As long as I can turn it over and cut from the other side, it would work great. But I have an 18-inch steel professional, not one of those regular ones. It's a real heavy-duty one, and I maintain it. It's really a great saw, and I actually have to use it. I have a big trunk of the tree that I already trimmed, debranched with the little battery-powered Ryobi, but I can't cut up the trunk. It's too big. It's like almost 20 inches across. Gas, which I'll do probably next week sometime. I don't like. I never used and never even considered using a regular electric chainsaw that you have to plug in. This little battery operated one is really great, and it has a lot of torque. I was really surprised what kind of stuff I can cut with it, and it worked very well when I cleared up that huge fallen tree in the fall, and actually cut up the whole thing with that. I didn't even need to use my big saw. Anyway, 73, all have a good night, take care, and I'll be here tomorrow night, most likely. And although it might be a little bit staticky. So, if I have time, I'll get the DX100 on the air, just change that fuse, and I don't think it has any other problem. So it just didn't like that I tried to load it into half of the antenna when my Carolina window broke. When it was about springtime. Take care all, and good night. So back to you, Steve. N4SU, this is WF2U clear.
Okay, well, good night to Cliff, and good night to Mir. Good to hear you guys on tonight. And yeah, Cliff, I tell you, your signal here is quite strong. You're the strongest one of everybody here. In fact, you even gave John a run for his money, and you know he's only about 4.5 miles from me. So you got quite a signal here. Yeah, very good. I couldn't quite catch what Mir was saying, so I'm not sure what. I'm not sure what he said, so I don't know what to comment on here. But Steve, I have two. I don't know if I mentioned this to you the other night, but I actually have two DX100s. One of them is in working condition. The other one has a problem running CW. So it's repairable, but it's not operational as it currently stands. They've been the one that's operational has been recapped, so don't have to worry about that. It has solid state rectifiers in it, which John has made very clear that he is not a fan of. In fact, he thinks I should rip them out and put the original type rectifiers in there, which if I recall correctly, are 5R4s, and put the thing back to its stock operation. I also need to get a variac. I need to get variac to keep the voltage down on these things because, well, I'm sure you know why, so I won't go into it, but I do need to purchase a variac. So I'm shopping around for them as we are speaking. Probably order through Amazon or something like that and have it here in a couple days or so. So anyway, I'll hang in here for a little while longer. I don't know how long everybody's going to stay here, but I got no place to go, so I'm more than happy to hang around and chat. Over to you, Stan. W4KR. This is K4QE.
Okay, Tony, N4QE, J4QE, W4KR. All right. Let's see. I've got one of those small Honda 2 kilowatt generators also. I think probably the problem with it, Steve, with the trying to run your electric saw is the starting current of those saws is about 6 or 7 times its running current, and that poor little Honda just won't quite do that much. Not quite. I use that thing primarily. I start them. I've got 2 generators here. I got that one and a 9 kilowatt house generator. And I run them about every 3 months. And I think that's the problem with chainsaws. We just don't use them enough. You got to run those puppies every day. Now I do use gas with no with nothing in it, plain old-fashioned what used to be called white gas. No ethanol, because that ethanol chews up the little plastic gas lines, and that's part of what makes the chainsaws hard to start. I can pull on that one big gas one I have, and you can pull on it forever before you get it to go. And it's a still, but. I think they flood real easy. That's part of their problem. DX100s. I've never owned one, but boy, they sure have audio. They did a good job. They did a good job with the audio, I think. With that, I'm going to call it a night too. I meant to come down a little earlier, but honestly, I fell asleep in a family room. And because I was gonna come down here about 8 o'clock, and I woke up and it was Jesus quarter to 9. So my wife had already gone to bed, so I'll quietly creep in there. Anyway, good night, guys. Good to hear you, and I'll leave this thing set on 160, and we'll see you tomorrow night. And for LQ and a gang, who's ever's left, W4KR 73.
Okay, sounds good to me, Stan. Appreciate you checking in tonight. Looking forward to another round tomorrow evening. It'll give us something to do, keep us out of trouble. And Tony, real fine on the on your DX100s. Well, I don't know. I've gone both ways on the rectifiers. Let's see, my Viking 1 has got all solid states in it, and this Valiant has all tubes, and it's got the 3B28s in it, which are really nice. 5R4s are fine too. So anyway, it's a matter of wasted heat though, and they get hot enough as it is. So I don't mind going with solid state at all, just as long as your filter capacitors are rated for high enough voltage to handle it. Well, I'm gonna have to get off of here too, guys. It's getting well, I've been on here since 8 o'clock tonight, so that's about enough, and I'm gonna shut her down here. So Tony, I'm gonna say 73s to you, and to you, Mayor. I'm sure you're probably anxious to get out there and take care of your dogs. It's almost 9:30, or it is 9:30. So 73s to all. This is N4LQ.
Steve, I forgot to ask you, how does the audio on this thing sound?
Well, it's thin. You know, it's mostly higher mids. Probably cuts off at about 300. Plenty of it though.
Okay, typical Johnson, stock Johnson then. Okay, thanks.
Okay, Steve, thank you for your comments about the solid-state rectifiers, because honestly, I'd rather stick with them for one of the reasons you mentioned, which is the heat generation. I know 5R4s run pretty hot, and if I can get rid of that heat, well, if I can remain without that heat source in there, all the better. There's already enough heat in that cabinet with all the rest of the tubes that are in there. So I just as well leave the solid-state rectifiers in there. I mean, I understand what he's talking about. He's worried about the higher voltages that could be that the solid-state rectifiers could present to the transmitter as opposed to the 5R4s. But we'll have a variac in the thing anyway, and I'll be lowering the line voltage going into it. So, you know, I could use that to make sure it's kept at a reasonable level. I figure I'll run them at 110 volts, and there we go. So, anyway, thanks again, and I hope everyone has a great night, and we'll see you all tomorrow night. This is K4QE.
Oh, very good, Tony. Sounds like a good plan, and hope you can get that thing on the air pretty soon. 73, N4LQ, shutting down the net. Good night.